So we know that XDefiant's launch has potentially been pushed back just a little bit longer than we'd hoped, and although that is obviously very frustrating as a fan, today I wanted to talk about why that could actually be a blessing in disguise for the game, and at the end of the day, a very good thing. If you're interested in XDefiant content, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. And while you're at it, if you're interested in just general gaming, I do have a brand new gaming channel where I'm going to be doing a setup tour at 1k subscribers. Right now I'm covering Starfield over on that channel, and so if you guys are interested, be sure to head to the link in the description, drop a sub on that channel and keep your eyes peeled for the setup tour at 1k subscribers. But with that being said, let's get stuck right into the video. Now, for those who missed it, the game has essentially failed its first submission to the first parties. Now, what that means is that they've essentially taken the game and submitted it to the companies like Sony and Xbox to be pretty much put on their platform. And in this sort of submission process, those companies then test the game, see whether it is pretty much what they have said the game to be, if that makes sense, and then do a bunch of testing to make sure that it is going to work on their platform. This isn't necessarily in terms of bugs, for example. So if there is a bug that makes you not able to reload, for us as players, that's obviously a very bad bug. Yet for Sony and Microsoft, they don't care about stuff like that. They just want to make sure that it's working on the platform. It's not going to brick your console or anything like that. And that the, I guess, more finer, intricate details that are related to those companies, for example, the friends list, being able to invite people from PlayStation and Xbox and stuff like that. They just want to make sure that all of that stuff is working, and at that point they'll approve the submission. But unfortunately, like I said, they actually failed on their first submission. Now, this sounds like a really bad thing. This happens with pretty much every game. Apparently, it is essentially absurd if a game submits it to these companies and it's approved on the first attempt. And so it kind of makes it sound like, you know, the game must be really broken or whatever, but this isn't really that big of an issue. This happens to pretty much every game that does this submission process. Now, because it did fail that first attempt, we now know that it is going to be a few extra weeks, potentially even a month later than they wanted, and potentially even longer if it actually fails the next attempt. So Mark Rubin pretty much said that they feel confident it won't, because he said that even if there is a conditional pass, that means that they can still launch the game. They just have to do a day one patch, and that would just push it back a few weeks later. So it seems as though they're pretty confident it won't fail again. Obviously, that means that whatever caused it to fail wasn't that big of an issue in the first place. But like I said, if it does actually fail the next attempt too, it could push it back potentially 6 to 8 weeks, even longer. So we're just gonna have to wait and see, and hopefully that does not end up being the case. Now, while this is obviously a bad thing, it kind of makes the game feel unfinished or like it's got a bunch of issues. Like I said, it's only probably failed for minor reasons that are more related to Sony and Microsoft. I don't think this would be anything to do with the game in terms of, like I said, a game-breaking issue like you can't reload or some of the abilities aren't working or something like that. And so it's probably not as bad as it initially seems, and they did kind of cop a bit of flack online for this because they've been so transparent with this whole submission process that a lot of people thought, oh my god, this has failed, this is obviously the worst thing ever, simply because we haven't heard of any companies saying this. Any other dev studios out there haven't really talked about this, and so to us it seems really bad when apparently in reality this is something that just happens pretty much every time these companies submit their game through Sony and Microsoft. Now, the good thing is, and the kind of blessing in disguise that I'm talking about, is that although, like I said, it sucks the game isn't coming out sooner, it gives them more time to cook the game and get things right. They're obviously not just going to be sitting around and sort of getting things ready for just the next submission. For example, like I said, if the friends list is the thing that isn't working, it's not like they're just fixing that and then they're going to submit it again. They obviously will be fixing that, and they'll probably be doing a bunch of other testing as well to make sure that they're finding even more bugs, even more balancing issues and stuff like that. And then in this spare time that they've kind of gained, they'd only be doing more bug fixes, more balancing, even down to getting more DLC ready and polished for launch. And that right there is very, very important. The reason I say that, and obviously that is the case for any game, we need any game to launch well, but I think with a game like this that is going up against a titan in Call of Duty, it's a titan not only in the shooter genre, but it is literally just the highest selling game every single year, including single player games and stuff like that. It is always the highest selling game, the exception being the 2 years that Rockstar's released their games in GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2. But every other year, Call of Duty essentially smashes it out of the park in terms of their sales anyway. And obviously they're going up against that, which is not a very easy thing for a game that is releasing its first game into the franchise. In my opinion, this game absolutely needs a great launch in order for it to succeed. There is so much pressure on a game at launch, especially when it is one that is essentially a brand new IP. Yes, they're using stuff from other IPs, but XDefiant on its own is a brand new IP. So there's a lot of pressure, and obviously going up against Call of Duty and specifically Modern Warfare 3, which from what we've seen looks like they're kind of going back to the roots roots, and they're going to give us something that is more dedicated to what the fans want rather than what they want. They definitely have a lot of competition at XDefiant, and because of that, the game needs to launch really well. If this game launches really buggy, or it launches with an underwhelming amount of content or anything like that, I honestly think people will get bored of it within a few months, and it will essentially just be dead on arrival. And a lot of those people who are, looking for some arcade shooters and a game that feels like more of that OG arcade shooter, that is something that XDefiant has done really well. They're just going to go straight to Modern Warfare 3, which, like I said, has kind of gone back to its roots. And although even for myself, I'm a little bit over Call of Duty, they've kind of strayed from the path over the last 5 or 10 years. Even for me, Modern Warfare 3 genuinely does look really good. It looks like it's going to kind of give us everything that we want in a Call of Duty game. And therefore, if that is the case and XDefiant is a bit of a bust, most people are just going to move over to that, or potentially just go back to the shooters that they were playing. So the launch for XDefiant is honestly do or die, in my opinion. If it launches really well, it can be a very successful game, in my opinion. It also does help that it's free to play, so a lot of people might actually favor it over Modern Warfare 3 simply because it's free and they think, hey, let me just give this a try, and maybe they really enjoy it. So it definitely has that potential to be very successful. But like I said, if it is a bit of a flop, if it's really buggy, or if there's just issues at launch, I honestly think within 3 to 6 months the game will be completely dead, and that is not what we want. I've been excited for this game for quite some time now. The open beta and all that, it felt really fun to play, and it actually changed my mind on the sort of arcade shooter genre, because like I said, with Call of Duty, it's been pretty dead for a long time for me, and this game is kind of giving me that itch back. So I definitely do not want it to fail, but there is definitely a lot of pressure on launch. So like I said, although it's kind of annoying, it has been quote unquote delayed a little bit. It's not really delayed because we never had an actual launch date, but it is definitely delayed in terms of when they wanted to launch it. Overall, that could potentially be a good thing, because like I said, it only gives them more time to get the game right. And the better the game is at launch, the more chance it has of being successful and sticking around for a long time. The slight delay doesn't guarantee this. It can still obviously launch in a not very good state, but I do think it definitely helps that we've got a few extra weeks, maybe a month, for them to kind of go over the bug fixes and all that kind of thing. So I definitely do think this is actually a good thing, and like I said, a blessing in disguise. But that is going to do it for today's video. I'm keen to hear your thoughts as well, so be sure to leave them down in the comment section. Keep your eyes peeled for more XDefiant content. I'll obviously be covering it right up until the launch, and then plenty more content after launch. And like I said as well, be sure to check out the new gaming channel if you guys are playing Starfield, or if you're interested in Spider-Man 2 that comes out in mid-October. Be sure to check out that channel. There is plenty of content going up there as well. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.